Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Cradle News Roundup, your one-stop shop for all news West Asia, coming to you live. My name is Esteban Carrillo. I am the news editor for the Cradle, and I'm joined by my friends and colleagues, content creator and social media manager for the Cradle, Simay Taim, and writer and content creator for the Cradle, Karim Shami. And as usual, before we start, we just want to remind you, as soon as you arrive, just hit that like button, help us out with this, leave a comment, and check out our memberships. Check out our Patreon, where you can become a direct supporter of the Cradle. Support independent journalism. We need your support to continue doing the work that we do here. Pretty historic day today. Donald Trump is in West Asia. He was in Tel Aviv earlier today, addressing the Knesset, getting all of his flowers. You know, for a man who loves to get his flowers, he did. Did he ever get them today? Now he's, I think he just landed in Egypt. He's headed to Sharm el-Sheikh for this peace summit, right, in which the leaders of about 20 nations, mainly from Arab and Muslim countries, are going to be present to, I guess, finalize or formalize the beginning, I'm sorry, of the ceasefire in Gaza, of this hopefully a lasting peace that would allow Palestinians to reconstruct. And we'll get into all of that in a moment. But so far, as we said, as I said, Donald Trump is he's in Egypt. The prisoner exchange happened earlier today. Nearly 2,000 Palestinians were freed from Israeli dungeons, from Israeli torture centers where they've held some of them for since the start of the genocide in Gaza, others for decades. Huge celebrations in the West Bank as well as in Gaza, despite the fact that, as usual, the Israeli occupation ordered Palestinians not to celebrate, not to give interviews, under threat, as they are wont to do, as they have done before, as we can see here, the Palestinian prisoners being freed. Israeli captives, the living Israeli captives also freed. I believe the bodies of the deceased captives are still to be exchanged, are still to be delivered to the Red Cross, or it might be happening as we speak right now. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, in particular about these images, about the prisoner release that went underway earlier today in Gaza and the West Bank.
Yeah, thanks, Esteban. I think it's a mixture of happiness and great sadness and sorrow, especially because there were many prisoners that the resistance was hoping to have released that so far, it didn't turn out to be successful. Although there were life sentence prisoners who were released, not everyone that they had in mind whose release they wanted to secure, they were able to secure. And the families of these prisoners, it's really mixed feelings, because it didn't turn out exactly, which is what the Secretary General of the PIJ, Ziad al-Nakhala, said. He said we had hoped for better results, but considering the circumstances, we basically, they did their best. A lot of people in the West Bank were hoping that their loved ones would be released. But the thing is, they've come out in horrible condition, and they're the ones who haven't come out who are in horrible condition. And of course, the captives that were held by Hamas and PIJ and other factions in Gaza are in much better condition than the Palestinian detainees. Another thing about this bittersweet kind of aspect to the situation is that at least 154 Palestinian prisoners were forced into exile from the ones that have been released, predominantly to Egypt, if I'm not mistaken. There were people waiting in the West Bank for their loved ones, only to discover, while waiting, that their loved ones had been exiled. So, of course, it is always an achievement to have prisoners released in a deal when there is no other way to release them. But it's very difficult in such a situation. You see, the conditions in West Bank, the conditions in Gaza, those who we were hoping would come out that haven't come out. There was news overnight that Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya would come out after they had said that they were refusing to treat him and other medical.
I wanted to ask you about that. Was he?
I don't think he has been, and so it's difficult, I mean, it's always an achievement to have, like, if you want to talk about Israel and Israel's goals, Israel had many stated goals that it couldn't achieve, and one of them was retrieving all its captives by force. And, this is counted as an achievement in the sense that Israel was forced to negotiate in order to retrieve its captives because it couldn't do so militarily. And yeah, I'm not going to go into the whole other. I mean, a lot of aspects of this plan in general failed. They wanted to expel the population and they failed to do so when it comes to Gaza.
They wanted to destroy Hamas, and Hamas is back on the streets.
Hamas is back, on the streets, and that's just normal. I mean, again, Hamas is not a militia; it's a governing force. It has it has an interior ministry, it has a health ministry.
Agriculture.
They're still running. Of course, they're going to try and enforce order at such a chaotic time. When there are all kinds of outlaws and gangs trying to exploit the situation, whether or not some of them are contracted to fight Hamas and others just fight Hamas because they've been fighting Hamas for a long time. But again, so when it comes to the exchange, everyone's very thankful that this was able to happen. But a lot of people have like a deep sorrow as well. So I just kind of wanted to, not that people shouldn't celebrate, of course not. But I think you get what I'm trying to say with that. So.
No, of course. Somebody in the chat asked, what about the other 10,000s or
Exactly.
the other thousands of Palestinian prisoners who remain,
Right.
including these physicians? There's like dozens of doctors abducted from Gaza. There was an image of a kid who was released today, actually, who was like a autistic. This autistic kid in Gaza who was released. Like, why would you even kidnap him in the first place? But we know how they act. Thank you so much for Gulnara Marchis, good old Gulnara, for their super chat. Make sure to leave a like, everyone. Go ahead, Sima.
There were a lot of prisoners who were taken before the year 2000 who were released. There were two more prisoners. If whoever remembers the Freedom Tunnel operation, when they dug their way out of prison and escaped, and they were all recaptured, 2 members of the Freedom Tunnel operation were also released. But Ahmed Sadat, the Secretary General of the PFLP, was not, and Marwan Barghouti was not. Abdullah Barghouti, who has more life sentences than Marwan for being chief bomb maker of Qassam brigades, was not. A lot of people, Hassan Salami, a lot of people were not. This is Israel's stubbornness. And Israel was delaying, by the way, with the lists. And when it came to the negotiations, until the very last minute, Israel was playing around a lot with that and stalling. And that's why you had all these statements by Hamas officials saying, like they were ready for Israel to obstruct the entire thing. They were
as they
Israel's
have
trying
before, right? And here's worth highlighting. First of all, what we're seeing now and what was agreed on, I believe Friday was when it was finally signed, is the first phase of the ceasefire. And in Gaza has already seen a couple of first phases. And it's by the time the second phase needs to be implemented that Israel comes in and violates. But at least me personally, you're seeing aid enter Gaza. Not enough. Let's be clear about that.
Enough.
Not yet anywhere near enough what's needed, but it's starting to enter Gaza. At the same time, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, this horrific organization, is started to dismantle its distribution points where over 3,000 Palestinians were summarily executed, shot to death, seeking food. You have, as we said, Hamas is back on the streets, restoring security, as the title says. They're restoring security. They are going after the collaborators, and it's a new day. This is what Donald Trump said in his speech, right? This is a new dawn. This is a new dawn for West Asia.
His PR,
Like, oh my God, like what did they call them? A colossus. They called him the greatest, a friend of Israel since like who knows how many hundreds of years ago. Like really, gave him all of his flowers. Netanyahu also, here just because I want to hear from you, Karim, too. But I just want to say quickly, yesterday Netanyahu said that the job's not over, that the war's not over, that the job needs to continue. And today, at the Knesset, he actually said the war is over in front of Donald Trump. So I don't know which Netanyahu to believe. Sunday Netanyahu, Monday Netanyahu. We'll see what Tuesday Netanyahu has to say about things. But yeah, I don't know, Karim, do you have any thoughts about what's going on in the Strip, in the Palestinian territories today?
Well, as seen, everybody is celebrating. Everybody is happy that the war has ended. Although, as Sima said, يعني, people were hoping يعني, some names to be released, but they eventually didn't. And regarding Netanyahu, yeah, he said in Hebrew that he wants to continue the war, while in English he said that the war has ended. So depends for whom he's speaking. He reminded me with the Arab leaders. In English they say something, and in Arabic they say something. So maybe because he's meeting them a lot these days, he's becoming one of them. So, yeah, as I said, everybody is celebrating. Hopefully, Israel will not breach this ceasefire because I think really Trump wants Israel to stop the bombings. But still, we have two hanging or three hanging fruits, as if I can say it: Yemen, Iran, and Hezbollah, because. Till now, Israel is still bombing South Lebanon, and they are creating chaos, and they are doing new stuff now. They are sending drones with speakers and like telling the people, yeah, go away, don't talk with Hezbollah, this is not safe, and blah blah blah. So in Gaza, as Sima said it, yani, she didn't leave anything for me, but I'm kidding. Yeah, as Sima said, some captives were released and some are not. And as we've seen the videos from Ramallah and from Ramallah and West Bank and from Gaza, people are celebrating. And also, we have to know that eventually, as we said it since day one here at the Cradle, Israel was unable to release the captives under fire. They were released under a deal. And that means that from day one, Israel, if Israel agreed to a deal, none of this would happen. Yeah, and they killed most of their captives. Yani. The Hebrew media says that. We are not talking propaganda, and we're
I saw one. Yes. Sorry to cut you off, Karim. Just to add to your idea, I saw one of the former Israeli negotiators. I forget his name, but he's given like several statements already to media. He was saying the deal that was accepted this time was the same deal that we had last year on the table and that Hamas already approved. And now, like in all of this time, of course, now you only have like 20-something captives, Israeli captives who remain alive. Netanyahu purposefully, with a purpose, he killed the other captives.
Yeah, exactly. And as we said also here at the Cradle, that it's all about personal preferences of Netanyahu, because he would be executed if the war ends. And today also, while Trump was talking, he looked at Herzog, who's the president of Israel, and asked him, why don't you pardon Netanyahu, because also Trump doesn't want Netanyahu to be prosecuted. And also today he scheduled a meeting with the Cypriot president. That's
Cypriot, yeah.
Cypriot president, because he had a hearing at the court, and he said, oh, sorry, I scheduled a meeting with the president of a country, so I can't go. So he's still, I don't think they fixed his problem. We'll see what will happen, because as we know in Israel, whenever something ends, such as a war or a battle, they have they make a committee and they investigate what happened during this war, and that's what they will do now. And some facts will surface, I think, in few weeks, and I don't think Netanyahu will be happy with the new information that will come out.
He's been trying to stop the probe into October 7, just into October 7 for the past 2 years. I mean,
yeah.
Just something also is about this summit today, this peace summit, right, in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, that is being co-chaired by Trump and Egyptian President Sisi. Trump tried to get Netanyahu to come, and Netanyahu is the one who said, I can't come because of, the meeting with the Cypriot president, maybe, and because of Sukkot, the holiday, also known as Feast of Tabernacles, the Jewish holiday. That's the excuse. And I mean, imagine that if he had not said no, it was him who had to say no. Like, all the Arabs are just on board with whatever Trump wants. It would have been Netanyahu there at the summit, which shouldn't happen. And as you know from our title, Iran also politely rejected the invitation to this, because why would Iran attend a summit chaired by Trump? when it's not even fully on board with Trump's plan as a whole, let's be frank.
No, and when they're being
And when it was
sanctioned and they were-
bombed by the U.S. and is constantly isolated and under hybrid warfare and sanctions. But I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. But I mean, how crazy! And they tried. Apparently, they wanted like Netanyahu and Mahmoud Abbas, the PA president, to shake hands, and the whole thing. I feel. I mean, I don't know if they've started yet or if they'll start soon. I think Trump has arrived just a short while ago. I mean, his speech at the Knesset was so bad. There was nothing new there. Like these baby killers, like we know them by heart now, but I always expect there to be something new, like a concrete announcement, like give us something new. Like there's never anything new. It's the same talk. Like the entire speech at the Knesset was just the same thing over and over again. It's the same thing they always say, him and Netanyahu, over and over again. And he talked about how he called nuclear scientists in Iran terrorists at the Knesset, if I'm not mistaken. You know, how he was so proud of how he extinguished Iran's nuclear officials. You know, he talked about how the dagger of Hezbollah, which is pointed at Israel, is now shattered. Like, it's the same talk. Like, why don't you give us something concrete instead of talking about this new dawn? And then he goes, oh, you know, thousands of years they've been fighting, or is it centuries? I don't know, whichever one it is. He doesn't, like, give us something. And that's what my question is at the summit. Like, all of this is up in the air. Like, all they signed, especially what Hamas signed and what Israel signed, was, as you guys recall, prisoner exchange, right? 72-hour ceasefire and prisoner exchange. There's so nothing about this Tony Blair, the whole plan for Gaza, and its none of this has been signed, and it's all up in the air. And he couldn't even give us anything concrete at his Knesset speech. So what's going to be concrete at the Sharm el-Sheikh summit? No one knows what's going to happen with Gaza.
Yeah,
Hamas is running Gaza again, I mean, for the most part. And now you're like, oh, they're going to disarm? They didn't say they're going to disarm. They said they'd hand their weapons over to a Palestinian National Army once a state is established. And you're here announcing to the world that Hamas will be disarmed. You're going to try to do it through your proxies in this trip. But I mean, really, like, give us the information, give us a political announcement. Like, give us something new. There's nothing there.
There's nothing. Karim, I sent a video right now to our chat this of Trump in Sharm el-Sheikh. He just gave some statements. He's there. The summit, I guess, is going to start probably by the time this podcast ends, or in the next few minutes. I want to hear you guys' thoughts. Thank you so much to Thomas Milne. They gifted 5 Cradle memberships. Thank you so much. About the what you were just saying, Simam, that Hamas is back on the streets. They're back on the streets, and in particular, this is what we're hearing at least, they are targeting the collaborators, right? The gangs, Yasser Abu Shabab's gang, other families that have historically opposed Hamas rule in Gaza. Donald Trump yesterday in Air Force One, a very interesting comment he gave in which he essentially suggested that the United States was aware that Hamas was going to, go back on the streets, reestablish security, and gave tacit approval, gave some sort of approval to this. He essentially said they need to do this. Hamas needs to do this. What is happening on the streets in Gaza?
Okay. Well, I want to ask a rhetorical question, which is that, let's say, because here we have Trump is claiming Hamas received approval to conduct security up. And if Trump didn't approve, how would he be able to stop them? I mean, that's my question. I mean, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, anyway, so before we get into, there's the Interior Ministry.
Specifically, we gave them approval for a period of time. That's what he said.
And then what will happen? Because you could declare that the war was over. So you'll go back to bombing them and giving air cover to these gangs, as Israel was doing earlier. Before we talk about that and the Interior Ministry and everything that's happening in Gaza, I just also wanted to take a moment to address what happened yesterday, which was that very well-known, renowned Palestinian journalist and social media personality, Saleh al-Jafarawi, was murdered alongside several others in Gaza City. This is someone who covered the genocide for 735 days, someone who was always there for his people, someone who refused multiple offers to leave Gaza to stay alongside his people. Saleh was not only murdered, he was kidnapped and tortured, okay? And this guy is someone who has been incited against by Israel in the same way that Anas al-Sharif was, by the way, in the same way that Hussam al-Shabat was, like in the same way. So it's very clear to most of us that Israel killed him without having to directly kill him. The reason why, like, this ties into what Hamas is doing in Gaza now, which are these crackdowns and this amnesty that they've put out, is because he reportedly was murdered alongside others. Some of them were also Hamas members and military personnel and security personnel. He was murdered by supposedly members of this clan or family called the Dughmush family in Gaza. Now, the family as a whole, you cannot call them Israel-backed because it's a very complex fabric in Gaza. So you know how we've talked on this show before about Yasser Abu Shabab and Hussam al-Astal. They have weapons from Israel. They are fully like in coordination with Israel. So with this family, the family is so big that you can't call the family as a whole Israel-backed. Some of them do work with Israel. Some of them do take orders from the Shin Bet, and that could have been the case with this murder. Some of them are tied to Fatah and Muhammad Dahlan. Some of them are tied to Salafi extremist groups that they founded. Some of them have fought against Israel. They've lost many martyrs in the war. Actually, just a month ago, this same family was bombed for refusing, some members of the family was bombed for refusing to work with Israel. They also refused to be displaced south. They stayed in the north. So again, it's not the same as the Yasser Abu Shabab situation. I just wanted to make that clear. But a lot of them do collaborate with Israel, do take orders from the Shin Bet. It doesn't mean that you're generalizing here, but this is a clan that's been against Hamas since before the war. This clan has been, for not all, but a lot of them have been fighting Hamas for over 20 years. So this is, a lot of it has to do with feuds and vendettas. But again, Hamas is not going around killing people in Gaza for no reason. But if Hamas's members are being targeted and killed, and people like Saleh was not a Hamas operative, but he was openly supportive of Hamas. So if he was around in the same area with Hamas members and he was murdered and others were murdered, they say that the son of Hamas official Bassem Naim was also killed yesterday in Gaza City. And so this clan basically was like, members of this clan exploited the situation a lot throughout the genocide. They looted, they attacked people. They have arms, you know, they're going to exploit this situation. So this is just one of the elements that Hamas has been cracking down on after this happened. But I just wanted to make it clear about Saleh that it's as if you could say Israel killed him. Even if it wasn't Israel that put out the order, you could say Israel killed him, because anyone acting in this way at such a sensitive time is doing Israel's work, even if they haven't been contracted to do so. You know? I mean, I just wanted to make that clear. So you have the ones, you have the militias that are fully Israel-backed, you have the others who, some of them are collaborating with Israel. All of them are being cracked down on by Hamas now. Yesterday, they put out, they've said they've opened the door for a repentance and general amnesty starting today for members of any criminal gangs who haven't murdered anyone. So if you haven't murdered anyone, you could settle your legal status and you'll be spared, basically. Otherwise, you won't be. And there have been reports that Hamas has killed, at least 32 outlaws and collaborators between yesterday and today, if not more. Gaza is a very complicated thing. You know, you have to have sources inside Gaza to know exactly what's happening. But that's what's happening now, is that there's this amnesty. A lot of them are collaborators. If they're not collaborators, even if they're not collaborators, they're coming out and murdering resistance members, brigade commanders, sons of officials, journalists who are pro-Hamas just for being pro-Hamas. What I'm saying is, it's like everyone was like, this was Saleh. Everyone was so happy that Saleh survived the genocide, you know. And then this is how, this is how he goes. And like, what can you say other than like, God wanted it this way? I mean, what else can you say? There's nothing to say. It's so heartbreaking.
Yeah, and this is his last video. He was happy that the war is over.
Yeah, one of his last. Actually, in his last, he was saying like, you guys are such a great people. Like, look at how everyone came out to rebuild their homes straight away. Man, I mean, it's been too much, it's too much to handle, and I worry about the role, we talked about this before, but the role that these gangs will play as Israel and Trump try to, move forward with their agenda In the Strip, now that the bombardment is for the most part over, we need to move to different tracks to try and achieve our goals in Gaza, is what they're thinking. So Hamas, with or without Trump's approval, in my opinion, I mean, it's like you said, it's an interesting point that Trump has said he's given them this approval because it may signal that Trump is serious about some kind of stability in the Strip. But it could be that, or it could be he just wants civil strife. I don't know which one it could be, because if Israel's backing one side and then Trump's saying that he's allowing Hamas to crack down on the side that Israel's backing, then like I don't know exactly what you're doing.
It's many
But
things still up in the air. It's many things still up in the air. I mean, like the optics right now are that. Donald Trump is serious. He's treating Hamas not as a a band of monsters, bloodthirsty monsters, which is like what most Western media, Zionist media, wants to for us to see them as. He's treating them as an organization that have valid qualms, valid reasons. Not, of course, not for October 7th ever. They will never allow accept that. But for deploying in the streets, ending the chaos that swept through Gaza. You have, for example, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation too, right? Like they are dismantling, like I mentioned a few minutes ago. But at the same time as they are dismantling these killing fields, they are also saying our work's not over. This is just a temporary pause. This is what the GHF has said, that they're essentially going to come back. The Israeli Minister of Defense has also said we got to go back in and destroy the tunnels. There seems to be these two, clashing narratives. What Trump wants us to believe, and then what the Israelis and their allies feel as is actually what's going to happen, which you cannot discount that at the end of the day, Israel is not going to want to move forward with this phase plan. I saw somebody yesterday on X saying, actually, I think it was Ron William Van Wagenen, a former writer, current writer at the Cradle as well, who was saying, like now Gaza is destroyed. He's like, it's completely flattened. And Israel's objectives, given objectives, destroy Hamas, retake the captives, etc., weren't really achieved via war. But they achieved the destruction of Gaza, which the UN has already said just cleanup is going to take at least 15 years. And, you need to consider the amount of toxic gases that are going to be released. You need to consider the amount of unexploded ordnance. You're going to have Palestinians in Gaza living in tents for many, many years, at the very least a decade, before reconstruction can begin in full. We don't know.
And they could delay that, right? They could delay that as long as they want. Like they could delay
yes,
reconstruction,
exactly.
keep them in tents for decades then? Or
Exactly.
So there are different ways to try and, let's say, expel the population other than
to make it unlivable,
them.
right? And already the Palestinians are not, allowed to return anywhere in Gaza. It's just in this small area of control that a small area that the Israelis have withdrawn from, which is like also not where the agricultural land is, right? Like right now, Israel is in control of Gaza's agricultural land where they can actually plant crops, etc. So, and just to go back to William's idea, because this is what I was thinking of, is like, in Iraq, the reconstruction is still waiting to happen in many places. In Syria, the same thing. Like you just have widespread destruction. I mean, for God's sake, in the middle of Beirut, it hasn't been reconstructed after the port explosion. Like just chunks of neighborhoods, like people are made to live in these conditions. Israel is going to do the same to the Palestinians now. They will exert control by simply making them live in the rubble, and then hope that they're just going to start dying, because currently you already have children being born with prenatal deformities, like with you're going to have cases of cancer. You're going to have cases of so many things just because of the toxicity that arises from 200,000 tons of explosives. The equivalent of more than 12 nuclear bombs that were dumped on Hiroshima. So maybe that's why, right? Maybe because they already know that down the line, this is just it's going to be an unlivable hell. That they're like, okay, like for now at least, Israel has just become a pariah across the world. So let's end it, right? Let's end it. You achieved essentially what you wanted to achieve, which was the destruction of Gaza, not your stated objective, your actual objective. I think that's also, another way to look at it.
But also, I want Karim's thoughts on this. Like, if Trump is like, let's pretend Trump is smart or trying to be smart or approach this in a smart way, and Trump really doesn't want Israel to resume That's because Trump knows that Israel has failed so far. Like, if he lets Israel go for another year, like, that's not going to delete Hamas. Like, that's not going to, if after these 2 years, everything you've done, and you couldn't even empty out North Gaza because of how, how the people were, how resilient they were, and they stayed through hell, through horror. I mean, so my point is, this is why I'm seeing that now they are envisioning these other approaches to try and achieve what they want in Gaza, because they know that by bombing Hamas, they won't disarm Hamas. So they are now examining these other options, and these proxies and kind of, helpers on the ground is one option. I don't know what else it could be. You get what I'm trying to say, Karim? Like, he knows that if the war continues for another year, they cannot get rid of Hamas. So of course it makes sense that Trump would say, let's end it here. We have more work to do in Gaza, but it's like a bit scary of thinking about what they will try to do once this phase of bombardment, like crazy level bombardment, is over. What other tools will they deploy to try and achieve these goals, which are part of Trump's plan? Again, keep in mind, I mean, he wants Hamas gone, right? He wants Blair to come in and take over. So what are your
he's
thoughts on
supposedly
that?
today going to ask if there's consensus of Tony Blair, which would be an interesting conversation. In any case, what do you think, Karim?
I mean,
Yeah, like regarding Trump, Seema, because I think it was a very long question. So can you summarize it for me?
yeah, I'm saying, what do you think, like Trump, do you think that Trump knows that Israel won't be able to achieve anything if Israel continues? And that's why Trump is like, let's end it here, and we will use other tactics to achieve what we need to achieve in Gaza, because they have not achieved that yet. They still
Yeah.
need to achieve, according to them, these objectives. They have not.
Yeah, even before
Like
he
the
was
tunnels.
elected. Yeah, even before he was elected, Trump said that Israel is losing the PR big time. He said it, and he knows that. But of course, Netanyahu and Israel and the Jewish lobby, or the Israeli lobby in the United States, was able to give Netanyahu at least 8 months after Trump was elected. And I think Trump wants to be like the man, or the super president of the United States. We can feel it and we can hear it every day in his speeches or in his interviews, especially regarding the Nobel Prize. I never had this experience with the Nobel Prize. Usually, maybe if something big happened, people will talk about the Nobel Prize for 2 days, not like 3-4 months before it was announced. I think this is the first time everybody knew when the Nobel Prize, the Nobel
That
Peace
is true.
Prize was announced. So, and he said it. Why they gave Obama? Obama did nothing. Look what I did. What I achieved. And the same in our region. He wants to be the peacemaker, and he wants to be the first one who bombs Iran. He wants to be the best ally for the Arab and Jewish communities at the same time. That's how I think about Trump. I don't think it's like beyond that. I don't think there's a political reason beyond that, to be honest.
Okay. I mean, I think they're going to fail in Gaza.
You
I think
think
I don't think anything's going to go the way they've written it out to go, especially if they've only agreed on the first phase of this. I don't know how they're going to implement all of this.
Look, don't
because-
forget we have a very somehow recent experience in 2006 after the Lebanese-Israeli war. What happened after the prison exchange is completely different what was written. In the deal was written that Hezbollah should not move weapons. Hezbollah should be only present north of the Litani. The government should do 1, 2, 3. Nobody did anything. And the same might apply in Gaza. In Gaza, we have to know that if Hamas is there, okay, their voice will be very loud, not as Hezbollah in Lebanon, because Hezbollah in Lebanon, you have Israel, the United States, and the government against Hezbollah. You don't have the same in Gaza, although Gaza is
What do you
rebel.
mean you don't have the same? Oh, you mean because you don't...
Politically, Asima, politically, the people in Gaza, they will be supportive or besides Hamas.
Not as much as you think. I mean, maybe the majority, yes, but not as much as you may think. I mean, they have internal
Seema,
they have internal challenges.
Seema, if I want to
Yeah.
make a deal or negotiations with Gaza, who will be the representative?
Now it's Hamas, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're
But
saying
here
as
in
opposed to
Lebanon,
Lebanon's, yeah.
you will have our Zionist foreign minister, okay, who like refused even to say hi or to meet the Iranian foreign minister. And when Sharia came, not
Shaibani, the
Sharia, the
foreign minister.
Shibani came, the foreign minister of Sharia, who killed and forced displaced Christians, and our foreign minister is Christian. He hugged them. Okay, see. Sorry, Sima, you
happens,
can say
guys.
whatever
Sima
you
lost
want.
power.
Don't leave us, Sima.
Do we have a new super chat? I feel like Karim needs to read this one.
We're in
Yalla, I will
Lebanon.
read. So that's what I meant, Sima. Sorry to take it longer than usual. Ivanka Trump's face is the result of massive plastic surgery, as opposed to the tremendous natural beauty of Sima. Okay,
Thank you so much, Don Sugar, for your super chat. Pretty
unexpected.
apropos that the power went off for Sima's reaction. I feel, there's something else. There's other things that are the seriousness with which, like this deal is being treated by the Donald Trump. I feel many things kind of coalesce together over the past week. I think the Nobel Peace Prize was definitely one of them. And to be fair, the Nobel Committee just chose like the second worst person after Donald Trump. I mean, honestly, I feel like Donald Trump did more to deserve it than the woman who won
Sorry,
it.
so I just want to say that because
That's so funny.
I want to say it. They gave a Nobel Peace Prize for a woman who asked the United States to militarily intervene in her country. This is the worst case scenario for any individual in the history of the world.
Yeah, they gave it to her. She
She's
applauds
CIA,
sanctions.
no?
Complete. She's USA,
mean,
She's like any other
yeah.
like oligarch.
Whoever
in
she is,
Latin
she's
America.
stupid. Nobody will ask a foreign country to come invade his country for his or her freedom. That's pure stupidity.
The fascists
Like
in Latin America.
half of
will.
Lebanon.
Or
Yeah.
half of Lebanon.
Yeah, I know Lebanese are stupid.
I wanted to say, okay, the Nobel Peace Prize. There's many things. Okay, I mentioned the Qatari attack, the attack on Qatar on Doha, because now Doha, first of all, the apology that Netanyahu gave. You remember the picture of like Trump holding the phone for Netanyahu to call the Qataris and Netanyahu reading the letter. Apparently, this letter, I think this was according to Politico, was in part drafted by a Qatari official in Washington, D.C., who was at the Oval Office when Netanyahu was reading this letter to make sure that he didn't skip any parts. Second of all, Qatar, earlier this year, they signed this $1.2 trillion deal with the U.S. investment deal with Donald Trump in particular. They got a defense agreement that is similar to, Article 5 of NATO. They have, on Friday, they announced the opening of a joint U.S.-Qatari airbase on U.S. soil in Idaho for training Qatari pilots, which is something, I still can't wrap my head around this, honestly. It's so ridiculous, but Qatar has it now. Qatar is just getting, everything they want, essentially. You also have, on October 7, the Cost of War project at Brown University revealed that since October 7, 2023, the U.S. spent at least $34 billion fighting Israel's wars. Funding Israel, sending them bombs, bombing Yemen, bombing Iran, everything that they have done over the past 2 years. That's a pretty hefty sum. That's a pretty hefty sum for a country that is, in dire straits. Like the United States economically is doing horribly. But yet they have the money to send to Israel. I feel like that was also, starting to weigh. The fact that a few weeks ago, the Pentagon ordered arms makers to start, double or even quadruple the amount of missiles that they need to be producing because they've spent so much. They've sent so much of their stocks to Ukraine first and then to Israel. Then you have, essentially half of MAGA, if not more, turning against Israel, saying, why the hell are we doing all of this for a foreign nation? Like, why does Israel control our political system? Like, all of these things started to coalesce, I feel like, especially around Donald Trump. And Trump, this is why we're seeing what we're seeing today. This, kind of almost desperate push for peace after 2 years of just like two U.S. governments being so compliant with Israel and so compliant, and like so on board with committing a genocide, to now, they changed the tune completely. And I feel like the end of this war, if it is indeed the end of this war, it's just to open the door for the next war. And the most immediate war, in my view, is going to be Venezuela. I have no doubt about that. Followed very closely by Iran. I don't think Iran is out of the question yet. I think Iran is also, on the verge of being attacked as well.
Oh, but Israel sent reassuring messages through Putin that that
They
you
won't
know
attack?
Israel's not. Yeah, and that's I'm.
Yeah.
I
When
believe
has
them.
Israel broken their word? I mean, you're right, Sima. Shame on me.
Never. By the way, there's been some updates. I don't know exactly what's going on, but Hamas was supposed to hand over the remains of the Israeli captives, like the Israeli captives' bodies, because they already released the 20 living captives today. And, Israeli media is citing the Red Cross as saying that they only received 2 when they were supposed to receive 4, and that the other 2 would be released later today. And then now, there's breaking news. Israel informed the mediators that it will not accept receiving only 4 of the Israeli captives' bodies today. I don't know what that means, but anything could happen.
We know for a fact that like finding the bodies was gonna be like a tall order, given the amount
Yeah,
of
I mean,
destruction.
it's not a piece of cake, is it? I mean,
I mean,
they're going to be unrealistic with the expect. What happened to the task force
the Arab
that's
task force, the
supposed to
Turkish task force.
that's supposed to search for the remains of the Israeli
I'm sure
captives?
more announcements will come out of the Sharm el
Trump
Sheikh
said
summit.
that there are operatives on the ground that are searching for the bodies, but I don't know what nationality are they.
I want to read a comment, which is also actually for what I was talking about. Muata says China's limits on rare earth minerals should slow down that military production. Yes, indeed. Because last week, China imposed restrictions on the sale of rare earth minerals and magnets that are crucial for the Tomahawk missiles that Trump is promising Ukraine, for the drones, for U.S. drones, for what do you call them, aircraft carriers, for a bunch of weaponry, a bunch of missiles that the U.S. has already just burned through, right? So, China taking this decision because they can, honestly. Like, this is something the U.S. has done for decades, which is essentially now any manufacturer or anybody who's like dealing with these, with anything that even has a 0.1% trace of Chinese rare earths or magnets needs to get Chinese government approval to, for these sales, for these exports, for the manufacture of whatever. So another pressure point on the U.S. military in particular, a military that is already just under a lot of pressure, and that is like such a corrupt system. Like the Pentagon is on route to like fail their 9th financial audit in a few months. I have no doubt about that. They're getting $1 trillion. They can't develop anything that doesn't cost like 10 million, 20 million. Any project has to be like an exorbitant price. So now it feels like reality is catching up to the this just constant push for war that the U.S. government has found itself in for like, my God, man, since before any of us were alive, honestly. And I feel like that is also fed into what's happening in Gaza, because I feel like I said a few minutes ago, like you already destroyed life for the Palestinians there. Now you can just sit and wait for either them to start living or like, for the public opinion to go elsewhere, for the public eye to go elsewhere, and then you do it in a different way. Because from the beginning of this genocide, Israel could have achieved many of the things that it has, which is kill a huge amount of Palestinians, way more than the health ministry is reporting, significantly more, in different methods, right? They didn't have to do it in the way they did, but they chose to do it in the way that they did. Well, don't leave me hanging, guys. I don't know if you have any more thoughts about it.
No, I was thinking about what
I know I'm letting Karim go ahead so that people in the comments don't say that I don't let other people talk or something.
No,
I'm just trying to
why
create a
would they say
balance
that?
here. I
Yeah.
mean,
No,
No.
yeah, it's what's happening. Yeah, of course. But the point about what I was thinking about is that the wars and the Pentagon, the budget is part of the system. And if this didn't work, I think the whole United States can't work, and they can't operate. And you have like, I don't know, maybe 512 or something like this bases outside of the United States. All these bases should operate. And for instance, if you have like hundreds of bases, if you're not in a war, one of the base will force you to go to war, so you can operate, you can make money, manufacture weapons. So I think the United States, whoever comes, Trump or other Trump, the main one of the like main structure of the U.S. government is the military, is the Pentagon. If
The military industrial complex.
Yeah, creating wars, creating.
I mean, they create jobs on the one hand.
Yeah. For them, that's how they create jobs.
Yeah, and they
Yeah,
create an enemy, like a foreign,
Yeah,
fictional
100%.
enemy that
Yeah, and
keeps their people,
imagine that.
preoccupied.
Yeah, imagine that. For instance, for them, Cuba is still an enemy since the '60s, and Cuba like is a small island population. I think less than 20 million. How can this island possess like a threat to the existence of the United States?
They are
You know
sponsors
what I
of
mean?
terror, Karim. What are you talking about?
You can't even like ship a small car to Cuba till now. So they create or Korea. And I think a high percentage of the Americans, they think that Kim Jong Un is willing to like bomb the United
US.
States and like kill millions. No, leave him alone and he will not do anything. Now this is the point. They come and force you to go and to act.
It's
So
a
this
culture
is,
of fear.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
culture of
it's
fear that has been
100%.
instilled in the U.S. And it's a method of social control as well. You always have an enemy abroad that you need to be fighting wars against, so that the people in your country don't have to, if they don't live in peace, they don't have the time to really be thinking about, wait, what's the actual, why are we actually, in the situation that we're in? And is their government working for me, or are they working for somebody else? No, you keep them, afraid. Now is the internal threat. I'm sure you guys have seen the images of ICE, persecuting people just for being brown, just for being black, just for being, in the wrong neighborhood. The secret police, essentially, it's the imperial boomerang. All of this is coming back. And now they're going to go to war against Venezuela. I'm sure they're going to go to war against Iran. There's no way Iran is going to, actually, that reminds me, we wanted to discuss this. The Washington Post article from a couple of days ago that said that, essentially all of the Gulf Arab nations were coordinating with Israel and with the U.S. from the start of the genocide and even before. And that the collaboration was centered on the idea that we need to fight against Iran, because Iran is the head of the axis of evil. And the tacit, again, Gulf Arab states completely behind the genocide in Gaza.
But
Yeah, I mean-
Sima didn't believe it because it said that Qatar is also a collaborator with the
Me?
Israelis. Yeah, you told me no, Qatar will not do this. No.
Me? I'm like the number one Qatar hater here, but okay. I mean,
No, Qatar
so
policy.
yeah,
hater,
this pact, has been, like you said, Esteban, from before 7 October and October 2023. I think it started in 2022. According to the report, it was established in 2022.
Wasn't
and
that-
it's a
No,
partnership known as the Regional Security Construct. And the 6 countries are Qatar, Bahrain, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE.
No way,
right?
Saudi Arabia.
They signed a
Charmaine-
rapprochement.
Where are you, Charmaine?
Where's Charmaine for the debate between Karim and Charmaine about how Saudi makes its own decisions? So this is forged under the U.S. Central Command, reportedly, and all of these countries, they claim to be on the Palestinian
It
side. and
included the
looking out
Five
for-
Eyes, right?
Yeah, the
Australia,
Five
Canada.
Eyes, exactly. This is, something that we already know, but when you see it in a report, you're like, this makes sense because it gives you a little bit more detail. And then you have people like, but this is U.S. media, we don't believe it. But it's very believable because we knew that these countries were in this alliance. So basically the files reveal plans to establish a combined Middle East cyber center and an information fusion center, which integrates Israeli and Arab security capabilities further. And it also involved onboarding partners to a US-run secure chat system, distributing intelligence and operational material through the Five Eyes network that you mentioned, which is Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Britain, and the US, as well as sharing radar and sensor data to build a joint regional picture and coordinating even info ops, right, like narrative warfare, to undermine Iran's image in the region as a defender of Palestinians or protector of Palestinians, while promoting a partner narrative of prosperity and cooperation. So I want your opinion, Esteban, on, because this report claims that this alliance, which was, essentially, I forgot to mention, this was not just about allying against Iran, but even against things like Hamas's tunnel warfare, I mean, just to make this clear, it's not strictly Iran.
Which
but
is what the
according to
Israelis are talking about today.
right.
Yeah,
And
it's
yeah, all the Arabs are complicit. Like
it's
as much as
against-
Qatar is an amazing mediator, as much as Qatar has helped Hamas in different ways, like let's not forget what this means and who Qatar is. You just need to dig into history to see exactly who Qatar is. So according to this report, like this shadow alliance like was shaken because of the strike on Doha. I don't really believe that, but
No, but they say they said it, Sima, and even after bombing Doha, Qatar continued in this in this
The
effort
alliance.
to protect Israel.
But I mean, I just went through all of the perks that Qatar got since that attack. They got a whole lot of things.
They can't. Now
yeah.
I am 100%.
This report,
Yes.
I feel like, well, as always, New York Times, Washington Post, you name it, you gotta take it with a grain of salt. There's always, some CIA, some State Department manipulation of facts there, but also over the past 2 years, in particular, you've seen the complicity of Arab states. I mean, I'm not an Arab. If you want, send your hate my way, but they have been completely okay with what's been happening in Gaza. I mean, just one statement after another statement after another statement. The claims of we're gonna cut, trade deals like Turkey did, the condemnations from Jordan, the condemnations from Egypt. Even the response from Qatar after their capital got bombed. It was like, you couldn't be more tame if you wanted. Like Qatar was completely, and then of course, I actually. I feel like the reports that Donald Trump knew, what Israeli media said, remember, like Donald Trump knew an hour before of the Doha attack and didn't say no. I believe that, to be honest. I believe that because we have seen the complicity with which they work. They are completely on board with everything that's happened. Who's going to fund the reconstruction of Gaza? It's
Qatar
going to
and the
be the
UAE
Jared
and
Kushner's
Saudi.
best friends. Yeah, it's going to be the best friends of Jared Kushner, who is not even a government official anymore. And he's there, he's there like shoulder to shoulder with Trump, with Steve Witkoff, who's also a real estate developer. They are on board with whatever Trump wants to do with Gaza. And we know that this man, just a few months ago, he released the AI video of the Riviera of the Middle East. Remember when Elon Musk was still part of his government? I don't feel like that has changed. I feel like the approach that they have taken to present this plan has changed a bit, just to try to, reduce the pariah status of Israel and to give a chance for arms makers to catch up to the targets that the Pentagon has set. But other than that, this is not going to lead us to Palestinian sovereignty. I highly doubt it, because I believe that Arab states, Gulf Arab states in particular, in Jordan and Egypt, do not want that. They
Yeah.
don't want that.
this is exactly why I'm saying the Sharm el-Sheikh summit won't bring anything new, because these countries are automatically on board with anything Trump wants. It will be just full of empty, I don't know. And then this report, if we take it, seriously, it shows you that they are all integrated into one system here. We are not talking about Arab-US alliance here. We're talking about Arab-Israeli specifically. Fine, they're one and the same, but we are talking about a system where everyone's kind of integrated into one system, and there's no getting out of that. There's no, as much as you want to present a different image, there is no getting out of that axis that they are in. Sorry, go ahead, Karim.
No. I just I want to say, yeah, it's so visible. It's so you don't need evidence. We don't need even foreign articles.
No, it's
يعني
apparent. It's apparent.
Yeah, you have Jordan downed drones and try to down missiles coming from Iran to attack Israel. Egypt just less than 10 days ago, I think, last Friday, I think, they downed a drone coming from Yemen. Saudi Arabia intercepts missiles coming from Yemen before reaching Israel. Israel knows at the moment the Yemenis launch a missile, not because they have extraordinary radars, no, because they are integrated with Saudi Arabia, with this system that we're talking about. They know from Saudi Arabia what's happening. And of course, Qatar pressures and loosens its grab on Hamas or any other fractions, depending on what Israel wants. So it's very clear. We've said it, or I've said it, although not everybody agrees. These countries and these leaders and these kings are in their places to protect Israel. If they fail to protect Israel, they will vanish. As simple as that. And from Egypt is like this since the late 70s. Saudi Arabia is like this after King Faisal, also in the mid 70s. Iraq is like this since the invasion in 2003. I'm talking about the government. And Syria is like this since last year after the vanishing of Bashar al-Assad. And the Gulf countries, they have no history. Yani UAE was handed over their independence in the late 70s. So they are still the same family. They are there for protecting Israel. It's as simple as that. If you don't see it, I don't know.
No, and it's the problem is there's no room for anything else. Like, because sometimes people would be like, oh, like I've spoken, for example, I've had discussions with Charmaine before and other colleagues where they'd be like, you're being too harsh on Qatar. But the point is, when you're in their pocket and you're in that axis, there's nothing you can do. Even if Qatar does play a delicate role, even if Qatar has done good things for the region, even if Qatar has, like, you know, if you meet people on a one-to-one basis, you will find Saudi and Qatari officials who are like great people who have a great way of thinking. But if you're in that axis now, so there's nothing you can do. Like, it's not. There's no room for anything here. I don't see room for maneuvering, no matter how much you pay Trump.
Qatar, يعني, if we ignore 7th of October, if you go back, Qatar is responsible at least for 200,000 casualties in Syria. And is responsible for the destruction of Libya. I said it before, I was happy when they killed Muammar Gaddafi because all my information came from Al Jazeera and from Qatar. When I met a real Libyan who explained to me what really happened, and now when you look at the map and you see that Libya is 3 countries, and when you go back to 2011 and Libya was the richest African country, you will understand why Qatar did this. And also for Syria. Syria had zero debt. Syria had started manufacturing and had like a weight in the region, and look what happened. So it's not only about Hamas. The Arab countries and the Arab world is shattered and is very weak, not only because of what's happening in Palestine. What happened in Iraq is terrible. What happened in Yemen is terrible. What happened in Syria is terrible. What happened in Libya and so on and so on. Every and each country is responsible in a way or another of what happened to these countries. And Qatar at least have the responsibility of Syria and in Libya.
I think it's very telling as well, you know, that Qatar joins this secret alliance, anti-Iran alliance, really, you know, Israeli, pro-Israeli alliance. Just a few years after it was Saudi Arabia and the UAE that were even threatening to like invade them, you know, like they were sanctioning them, they were blockading them. And it was Iran that was sending, you know, supplies to Qatar so that they could sustain themselves. It goes to show you, and this is my opinion, Iran doesn't have allies. Iran doesn't have allies. They have allies, you know, with Russia, with China. They have strategic alliances with them. But in the Gulf region, even after the Saudi rapprochement, we keep seeing the Gulf monarchies. They prefer the U.S. empire. They prefer the Israeli side. They keep choosing it over, you know, any other possibility. And I feel like maybe, you know, at the end, what we're seeing is, because I feel like the U.S.'s end goal with all of this, from Venezuela through Iran, is China. You know, it's stopping China. It's what Charmaine likes to call, what is it that she calls it? The big power battle, the power plays. She has a phrase that she loves to use.
The great game or something.
The great game, that's the one. The great game. It is, you know, but it is because, I mean, look at what's happening, and you know, because we've talked about so many things in this episode, but I do want to bring this up. Look at what just happened between Afghanistan and between Afghanistan and Pakistan. These clashes that have been that broke out over the past several days between the Taliban and the Pakistani army. Hundreds killed in Afghanistan, you know, dozens killed in Pakistan. It feels like, they announced one peace deal just for another war to erupt somewhere else. And this happened while the Taliban foreign minister was in New Delhi, meeting with India. Pakistan reportedly conducted airstrikes in Kabul, and I believe the province of Patakia. I might be mispronouncing this. And it's, Iran has been one of the countries that came out also to be like, let's calm down here, because Iran shares borders with both Pakistan and Afghanistan. So, it's about China, but the road to China is paved via Venezuela, via Yemen, via Lebanon, via Iran, via Russia as well. And I think that's also why we're seeing now China take this stance of being like, well, we're going to start putting restrictions on these specific things because we cannot make it easy for those who are coming to kill us.
Yeah, I think, although I think China, they don't want to go to that path, because till now China believes that they are still developing country. They are still creating jobs. They are still building. They didn't reach the peak yet, so they want to be part of this integrated system. But Trump and the United States policy is forcing them to take such an actions. Although I don't think China have like a plan to control the world as people hope or think. And regarding Afghanistan,
No, I mean, like, China actually, sorry, Karim, to cut you off,
Yes.
but like officially, in their political statements, they reject hegemony. From wherever it may come, they reject hegemony, which is the complete opposite of the United States, which hegemony is the name of the game for them.
Yeah, exactly. But the hegemony of the United States is for the whole world. For instance, I think China rejected in their soil. They will not intervene for another country, even if it's their ally, it's an ally, to fight the hegemony of the United States. That's what I think, and that's I think what's happening surrounding China, because there's many countries, for instance, South Korea, Japan, Philippines, whatever. There's many countries surrounding or on the borders with China that are aligned with the United States, and I don't think China is doing anything to shift this. They are still having problems inside their borders, inside Hong Kong and Macau. Macau, I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. And they also they have Taiwan, the problem of Taiwan. I think China is still very far from like projecting its power, because they till now they don't show us how or if they want to project their powers. And regarding Afghanistan, I think Afghanistan is a completely failed state. How can I say it? What Saudi Arabia and the United States did in Afghanistan in the 70s and 80s, they had so much effect on the community and in the mentality of the people there. Till now, they are living as if they are living 1,000 years ago. I don't think Taliban is going anywhere. For instance, Pakistan should be a good neighbor for Taliban, for instance, but they are not. They are not achieving this. Iran also, they fought Iran. I think, Sima, if not mistaken, like last year there were many clashes on the border. No, do you remember? Or the year before it, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also there were bombing against Chinese teachers. So and also we have to know that Afghanistan is a landlocked country. So I think they should start making friends, and I don't think anybody wants to be friends currently with Taliban, especially after Trump's announcement.
China was the first nation to give recognition to the Taliban government. They were followed by Russia. But yeah, I don't know, because now Pakistan also has this defense pact with Saudi Arabia that includes nuclear deterrence. There's many chess pieces being moved around, and you can feel this power struggle, as Asharmin would put it, the great game. But yeah, I just wanted to add that. Sima, you were going to say something.
I don't know. I mean, I know I was looking at the comments, and about Pakistan and Afghanistan, someone said, somebody, who was it, said, oh, I thought that was to launch attacks at Iran. Sophia said, oh, I was thinking that was to launch attacks at Iran. If I'm not mistaken, I think she was talking about Pakistan. I don't know what, what's what
Yeah,
is
هلا, to be
behind
honest,
this right
هلا,
now?
it's very difficult to know what's happening inside Afghanistan, and the news is very poor. And for instance, we have to know, it's a very big point. For
is.
instance,
It is.
did Pakistan ask Taliban to stop these people? For instance,
The TTP.
yes,
Tahiki Taliban.
Tahrik Taliban, and Taliban said no, then they bombed them, or they bombed them without asking them. You know what I mean? So, but we have to know, yani, for instance, 2 days ago there was an ambush and Pakistani soldiers died on the border. Are they Taliban who did the ambush or Tahrik Taliban? It's very vague. Yani, I read it from multiple sources. Some are saying Taliban, some are saying no, Tahrik Taliban. So it's very vague what's happening there. But for me, Taliban should be more pragmatic because it's a landlocked country, okay? And it was important previously because USSR wanted to make it part of the USSR, and it came important again because the United States want to spread its hegemony in Central Asia because of Afghanistan. But now both countries don't want Afghanistan. They have to find allies because everybody wants Afghanistan to be prosperous. But I think the path that they are taking is very vague, and they don't know their enemy from their ally. That's what I can say from Afghanistan. I tried to gather some information, but it's very difficult to
It's
find
complicated.
a
It's a
reliable
very complicated
source there.
topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, finding reliable sources and independent journalists is very difficult, I think.
And in Pakistan
Very,
also,
very
Pakistan,
difficult.
it's like as if Pakistan is a continent. There's many opinions. There's many channels in Pakistan also.
By the way, guys, the summit has started in Egypt. To our viewers, we're sorry we couldn't cover it for you, but it's only just starting now. I'm sure you don't want to miss that. So go check it out when you're done. So important.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
much
I'm
good
seeing- I'm
stuff. So
seeing
much
the images.
constructive stuff is going to
I'm
take
sure
place
it's,
at the
it's, the,
summit.
it's the start of a new era. You know, tomorrow is a brand new day. It's a new dawn, as Donald Trump said.
Look, someone in the comments said that they weren't feeling very positive, and I just want to say, it's not going to go the way they plan, so don't worry about it. It never, ever, ever goes the way they want it to go. It simply does not.
Yeah, reality
That's
is going
how
to
I
smash in their face from many different angles. You know, just look at the performance of the U.S. dollar. You know, the spike of gold. It's not. You know, this is an empire that is on a downward slope. Yes, the summit has started. We will bring you the latest on Thursday for our next episode. I want to thank.
Yes,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Kareem?
Sorry, no, I just wanted to
wanna say
say I
something?
think Sisi is happiest is the happiest ever. I think he's happier here more than the day he got married or something.
Yeah, he has
It's
the
insane.
dollar signs on his eyes. You know, like cartoon character.
It's insane.
Yeah, he's like thinking of all that IMF and World Bank money that's just going to start flooding into Egypt again. In any case, thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. Before you leave, just make sure to leave a like, leave a comment as well. Leave a comment under the video. That helps a lot with the algorithm for us to get more subscribers, to get out to more people. Yeah, check out our memberships here on YouTube. Check out our Patreon where you can support us. We need your support. Please support independent journalism. That here at The Cradle, we don't answer to anyone except to each other and to our readers. We bring you the news as they are. Thank you so much for supporting us, and we will see you on Thursday. And thank you, Seema, and thank you, Karim.
Bye bye.
Thank you.